It was 2:17 in the morning, that dead hour when the world feels like it's holding its breath. Daniel was deep in sleep, tangled in his sheets, when the sharp ring of his phone sliced through the silence. He fumbled for it on his nightstand, his eyes barely open. The screen glowed with a familiar name, MOM. Groggily, he swiped to answer, pressing the cool glass to his ear. "Hello," he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. He expected to hear his mom's usual late-night check-in. Maybe she forgot what time it was again, or she was having trouble sleeping. But the voice on the other end wasn't his mother's. In fact, there was no voice at all, just breathing. It was a strange sound, heavy and ragged, like someone was struggling for every single gasp of air. It was a wet, shaky sound that made the hairs on the back of Daniel's neck stand up. He sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "Mom? Are you okay? What's going on?" he asked, his voice now laced with concern. The breathing continued for a few more seconds, a rasping, desperate noise that seemed to fill his entire room. Then a whisper. It was faint, barely audible, but it cut through the breathing like a razor. A single, chilling phrase that didn't sound like his mother at all. "Don't let them in." Before Daniel could even process what he'd heard, before he could ask who they were, the line went dead. The sudden silence was even more jarring than the breathing had been. He stared at his phone, the screen now dark. Don't let them in? What did that even mean? Was this some kind of prank? A wrong number that somehow showed up as his mom's? His heart was hammering against his ribs. Confusion and fear swirled in his gut. He immediately hit redial. The phone rang once, twice, and then someone picked up. But it wasn't the whisperer, and it wasn't his mom. A calm, professional female voice answered. "City Hospital, night reception. How can I help you?" Daniel's blood ran cold. The hospital? Why was his mom's phone at the hospital? I just got a call from this number," he stammered, trying to keep his voice steady. "It's my mother's phone. I need to speak with her." There was a pause on the other end, a moment of silence filled with a sense of dread. The woman's voice softened, filled with a gentle, practiced sympathy that he already knew he didn't want to hear. "Sir," she began slowly, "I'm very sorry. The owner of this phone was brought in earlier this evening. She passed away about 10 minutes ago." 10 minutes ago. The words didn't register at first. Daniel just stared at the wall of his dark bedroom, the woman's voice a distant echo. Passed away. Passed away 10 minutes ago. But he had just spoken to someone. He had heard that breathing. He had heard that whisper. His mind reeled, trying to connect the impossible dots. The call came at 2:17. She passed away 10 minutes ago, around 2:07. It didn't make any sense. That's not possible," Daniel whispered, his throat tight. Someone called me from her phone." The nurse sighed softly. "I'm sorry, sir. That's not possible. Her personal effects, including her phone, have been at the nurse's station since she was admitted. No one has touched them." Daniel felt a wave of nausea. He couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was closing in on him. He mumbled a thank you and ended the call, his hand shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. He sat there, frozen, in the suffocating silence of his apartment, trying to make sense of the last 5 minutes. His mother was gone, and her ghost, or something pretending to be her, had called him. Why? What was the warning about? "Don't let them in." And then he heard it. Knock, knock. The sound was soft, almost tentative, coming from his front door. It wasn't the sharp, impatient rap of a neighbor or a delivery person. It was a slow, deliberate sound that seemed to echo the slow, deliberate thumping of his own heart. Every instinct in his body screamed at him not to move, not to make a sound. Who would be knocking on his door at nearly 2:30 in the morning? He slid out of bed, his feet silent on the cold hardwood floor. He crept from his bedroom, down the short hallway, his eyes fixed on the peephole of his front door. The knocking stopped. Silence descended once more. Daniel held his breath, listening. And then he heard it again. The same sound from the phone call. That heavy, wet, shaky breathing, right on the other side of his door. It was closer now, louder, more real. It was the sound of something in profound distress, something struggling for life, and it was just inches away from him. A primal fear, cold and sharp, seized him. He backed away from the door, his mind racing. His mom's warning. Don't let them in. Whoever, or whatever, was out there, it was what she had warned him about. He wouldn't open the door. He couldn't. He scrambled backward, his eyes wide with terror, not daring to take them off the door, expecting it to splinter and burst open at any moment. But the door didn't burst open. He didn't hear the lock being picked or the handle being jiggled. Instead, he heard a new sound, a quiet, metallic click. It came not from the outside, but from the lock on the door itself. From the inside, Daniel stared in horror as the deadbolt, the one he had locked himself just hours before, began to slowly, impossibly, turn. It moved with a grinding slowness, inch by inch, unlocking itself from his side of the door. He was trapped. There was nowhere to run. The thing on the other side wasn't trying to get in. It was being let in. The deadbolt finished its turn with a final, sickening click. The doorknob began to rotate. The door started to swing inward, opening into the darkness of his apartment. And from the widening crack, that same shaky, desperate breathing flowed in, filling the room like a toxic fog. He didn't open the door, but something had opened it for him. If you ever get a call from a loved one after they're gone, what would you do? Stories like this remind us how thin the veil between our world and the next can be. It makes you wonder what's really out there, waiting in the dark. For more tales that will make you question everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening.